Our next guest is Jen.
Yep.
She's actually awesome. We just did a breathing technique right before this podcast. It was awesome. She included sound baths. We also did like a Thai massage. My back and my shoulders been hurting. She really helped me out with that, and we were just talking. And she has a lot of knowledge because she's been all over the world. Um, and she's
True.
actually like a healing practitioner, you could say.
Sure.
Yeah, how's it going?
I am a student of healing. Yes.
Yeah, how
Yes.
are you?
Starting with inside me, right? I'm
Inside
good.
you.
Yep.
How does that work exactly?
Good question. That's what I'm working to discover in myself as well. But I do feel the more that I'm studying, the more there is to recognize that um, the root of it is inside of us. Through the perceptions, what leads us to have the habits that we do, and put the fuel into our body that we do, whether that fuel is food or our environment that we allow ourselves to be in, or the food we eat, just the music we listen to. What are all the things that are coming into us that we choose to perpetuate? There's certain things we maybe don't have a choice on, but at a certain point, we have more and more, hopefully, we're perpetuating freedoms. However, certain choices that we make actually then lead to less and less freedoms. So for me, I find more and more healing as I make choices that lead to expanded freedom. They come hand in hand.
Okay. Do you also find more freedom when you actually help other people?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. So if I found that in studying Thai massage, for example.
Which felt great, by the way.
Oh, good. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, my shoulders feels actually a lot
Yeah.
better.
There's a little bit of a story behind that.
Mm.
When our family decided to live in Southeast Asia for some time.
Mm-hmm.
And just a couple weeks before going, a friend said, "Hey, have you guys ever heard of Thai yoga massage?" He called it.
Yoga
And
massage?
yeah, which is kind of a more of a Americanized term for it. If you're in Asia,
Okay.
they'll call it just Thai massage. Oh, and I was like, "No," but there was something inside me that lit up and knew. I don't know, some sort of knowing of that's for me. Go learn that thing. And
Okay.
there's been several times in my life where that's happened, like with becoming a yoga instructor or
Oh yeah, you are a yoga
learning
instructor, aren't you?
learning different things. Yes. So I feel like there's a piece of me that just lights up at certain things, and as I follow them, that following the learning that comes through those, there's also some healing that comes.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
But so learn when he said that, "Hey, have you heard of this?" No, never, but yeah, let's I'm going to look into it and see what it is. And looking at some YouTube videos, discovered, wow, that really looks like something I'd like to learn.
What
There's
is it
something that
exactly?
appeals to me.
Is it just like, I mean, what you did was like a massage per se, but
Yeah.
what is the yoga aspect of it? Like breathing too?
So if you watch a video of it, there's the stretching aspect, right?
Okay.
And even the practitioner is getting a stretch from it.
Mm.
So the difference between Thai massage, or one of the differences, is that if you're doing a Swedish massage, for example, you are putting a lot of energy into it. And a Thai massage, there's more of an exchange
There's more of an
between the
exchange.
practitioner and the participant.
Participant.
Yeah.
What's like a deep tissue massage? What would that be classified as?
I don't know all that much about
Mhm.
like other modalities of massage, and I'm even a surface student of Thai massage. But ultimately, because there is that give and receive exchange both ways, I come out of doing a Thai massage feeling absolutely centered and grounded and not exhausted at all. It's really
Cool.
wonderful. Yeah.
Cool. Cool. Interesting. Okay, so as far as yoga goes,
Yep.
I've done it a couple times. I like it.
Mhm.
There's this guy Will. Oh, well, that's how we met. Will's
Yeah,
class.
that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yes.
Um, I've met another yoga instructor who told me when he does a group, everyone somehow breathes at the same time. They don't even
Mm.
know each other, or they do the movements at the same time.
Right.
Why do you think that is? Like the synchronicities.
I think there's a rhythm of life,
Mm.
right? And there's something about falling into sync with someone who is feeling to be in similar emotions
Okay.
that just feels natural. It just feels like an inner inclination to do so.
You think? Can we say they're just vibing together?
For sure.
Yeah.
We
Okay. Cool.
move toward, like, our brain, we know that our brains move us towards what's comfortable and moves us away from what's uncomfortable. So if you're creating this flow in a yoga class and everyone's stepping into the flow, they're stepping into the breath pattern, you are going to sync up in some vibes. And in doing so, you're all going to feel more comfortable with each other, as
Okay.
opposed to one person coming into a room with a vibe of anger.
That's actually what happens. He says when he does it, and someone comes in,
Yeah.
and they just have like a piss poor attitude.
Yep.
Somehow they come to a class, two classes, and they're like, "That's not for me."
Yeah.
And they just get. I mean, they just leave voluntarily. It's not that the instructor tells them to leave, but they're like, "Ah, this is not for me."
Right.
Cool.
They feel uncomfortable because it doesn't vibe, like you're
Yeah.
saying. Yep.
Same thing I noticed. We were talking about the Joe Dispenza retreat that I went to.
Yep.
Back in February.
Right.
I've noticed the people that really weren't feeling it were, for some reason, they're from like post-Soviet Union countries, where these things aren't really acceptable, or it's more about materialistic objects like wealth and just status.
Okay.
Versus like you just having inner peace and happiness.
Right.
And somehow like people was the first day, yeah, no one really knows each other. There's 1,500 people from 70 something countries.
Yep.
But towards like the third, fourth, fifth day, people start building cliques, and people trying to gravitate towards what they want. Those people were like trying to gravitate towards each other. They just start partying, and honestly,
So
like
common goals or common objectives, is that what you mean?
yeah, either common goals or common objectives. Like my goal was just to learn more.
Subconsciously, even.
Yeah, even subconsciously. And those people were just like vibing to it. What do you think that is? Is the same concept? They're just vibing.
So, I went to the school of MIU, Maharishi University, International University.
The one in San Antonio?
It's nope, it's in Fairfield, Iowa.
Okay.
And there's a very foundational concept that they teach, and that's based on the ocean of consciousness.
The ocean of consciousness?
Ocean of consciousness is from Vedic foundations, right? Which is thousands of year old texts.
Okay. And what is this
ocean
of consciousness?
Okay, so the ocean of consciousness is a concept that our consciousness has levels, and it can be likened to an ocean.
You mean like a subconscious, unconscious?
A little different. So you've got levels of consciousness, but yes. But let's go back to the ocean. So the ocean, at the top of the ocean, you have lots of movement, right? And that is a place where if you're on the surface of the ocean, you're going to be tossed around, right? If you don't have some anchoring, you're tossed around, and you're at the mercy of what the energy at the top does. It's like a very physical place to be.
Okay.
We're going to feel it physically, which then will affect us emotionally, right?
Okay.
As you go down deeper and deeper into the ocean, there's less and less energetic movement, and it comes eventually to stillness, right? At the very base, or like physical movement, right?
Yeah.
At the very base, bottom of the ocean, if you're just right by the ocean floor, silence.
Depth, yeah, definitely
stillness, depth.
So go within is in a sense.
So if we then take that and liken that like that, we've got our mind, the expansiveness of mind, of being, of consciousness, without getting too much into like what is consciousness and what is mind and what is awareness. Consciousness as a whole, we can liken to that ocean. At the very top, if we've got surface thought and taking in just the physical. So I see something, I feel something, something touches me, I hear something. It's all very physical.
Sensations, things like that.
It's like the larger.
Superficial.
Superficial, yes. Surface thought, things coming in. I have just an instinctual reaction. If I going deeper and deeper, we're aware, we have consciousness of more and more subtle things.
And that also pertains to brainwaves, right?
Yes.
Like you go down to theta, delta,
right?
And at that point, outside world is irrelevant because you're kind of like in that dream state.
There is a correlation, yes. So there's lots of brain studies that they do at Maharishi, for example, on what state someone's in, whether they're at surface thought or if they're down at the very depths of stillness.
What's the very depths? Theta?
For Maharishi, they're looking for alpha 1. And that's actually part of the a practice that they do of being a student. You're practicing transcendental meditation twice a day.
Nice.
And actually at the very depths, you're actually, the goal is to transcend so that you are going, and that's measured by Alpha 1. And they have transcendental meditation is a practice that Maharishi brought to the West, and it's a predictable way to transcend. And it's a 20-minute practice twice a day.
So it's kind of like a roadmap in a sense. If
That's
you do
right.
this, that'll happen.
Yeah, and it's based on the law of practice. What you practice, you become good at.
That's right.
So if you allow that practice, your body is creating more and more brainwaves for it, or pathways. But it's also what they found is that as someone practices, over time, that Alpha 1 ends up superimposed, even when they're in activity.
Yeah.
Those brain waves that show up.
We're talking about that earlier, though.
Superimposed onto when you're in activity or when you're in more stress. So
we're talking about that earlier. Remember when I said things are bothering me less and less now?
Yes, that's right.
Right, because I'm meditating more and more.
Yep.
And when there's external things, I'm not trying to be reactive towards them.
Right.
I mean, first of all, I want to be proactive, not reactive.
Yeah.
And those things just really don't bother me. Like, oh, okay, cool, okay, whatever. Let's say someone yells at me, whatever. Someone cuts me off on the freeway, whatever.
Right.
You know, I'm not offended. Maybe they're just having a bad day. I don't even analyze the situation at this point. Like, whatever.
So you're explaining one of the concepts of the ocean of consciousness is that when we're at the top, we're a victim. We're tossed around by if something happens, we're like fight or flight, tunnel vision. We need to be on our defensive mode. And so if something happens that's uncomfortable, we need to react right away. And we don't necessarily even have the option because the chemicals that are going through our body lead us to just be in our quick instinctual mode.
Yeah. Well, I have a coworker who's very reactive. And when they're telling me certain things about, let's just say, certain wars or certain things going on at work, I wasn't being as reactive as they wanted to, apparently. And they're like, "You're very cold-hearted. What's going on?" I was like, "No, I just don't care.
Right.
Like I don't care about the same things you care about. I don't have any triggers to." But I didn't want to come off that way. But I was like, maybe it's not me. Like I just said, okay, whatever, Yeah.
It's an interesting concept.
Yeah.
And
They're not mad at me.
I think we all can relate to sometimes when we are pulled into what we call that as the relative field. Everything is relative to us because we've got this concept that we're so separate and we're so different.
No, we're all connected. One consciousness.
Right? So that though is only allowed, we can only see that when we're in a safe space. If we have to be in a defensive mode, it's very difficult to have the mindset or perspective of we're one. There's no.
And does that come to the term of like fight or flight? You need to really shut that off and to be in a more creative state. That's when you go into the creative state.
So creative is part of the way down. I mean,
I'm touching the bases,
right? So when you're there's surface thought, then you've got to where you're intellectualizing, you're reasoning through things, you're having creativity, you're having and please, I'm just a student, so I could be even getting some things wrong, right?
No
First year student, but the best I can. This is a good study. It's been a minute. You get deeper and deeper. You get into, subtle sensations, feelings, not just these emotions that are knee-jerk emotions from a programmed space of thought, but being able to step back and have some space. We have two pathways in our mind. We've got the quick pathway, the short pathway, and then a longer pathway. The quick pathway is the one that is more connected to like knee-jerk reactions, programming in our mind that leads to the knee-jerk reactions. This happens, that means I need to do this. This happens, that means I need to do this, which may have come from when we were 4 years old, when we were 7 years old, when we were really that high absorbing sponge of meaning.
But that doesn't mean you have to keep that, right? You could,
That's right.
You could do, you can unprogram that or reprogram it.
Yes, if we live a life that allows us to continually heal our nervous system.
You mean you can't be like in a war zone and worry about this stuff because you need to concentrate on.
I mean, well, look
living.
at some people who do live in a war zone. Like, what's his name? Victor Hugo. No, wrong author.
Victor Hugo.
Frankl.
Oh, you're talking about, okay.
Yeah. Man's Search for Meaning?
I know you're talking, actually I've read that book.
Yes.
So he was a refugee during World War II, right?
He was a
for the
prisoner in a
yeah.
camp.
I mean, yeah, refugee. He was a prisoner for the Nazis,
Yep.
and apparently they tried to destroy these people's souls and break them. So he said, "You could break my body, but you can't break my spirit," or something like that. In that sense, yeah, very interesting. You're absolutely right.
And he was a psychologist.
Yeah, but he was very strong.
Yeah.
Very, very
Well,
mentally strong.
mentally strong.
Yeah.
So he had the practice to not have to be pulled into that relative field of I'm a victim, and it allowed him to keep a mindset about him that a friend of mine calls it freedom behind bars. A friend of mine wrote a book called Freedom Behind Bars that highlights several individuals who, when imprisoned, they actually found their liberation of life rather than being pulled in this place that could have been a prison or
Right.
is physically a prison. They had the presence of mind, the expansiveness of consciousness to step back and observe themselves and to recognize, wait, I'm only in the prison that I allow myself to be in my mind.
I do that a lot when I travel
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not in a comfortable state,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't predict the future, and I like to control certain things in my life.
Such a great practice
Yeah,
traveling, right?
that's why I love it because when I was in Egypt once,
Mhm.
and actually this person was a healer too, and I was like overlooking the pyramids, just having lunch, and I was talking to this lady. I'm like, yeah, I've been here, I've been there, and she's like, sweetie, what are you running away from? And right off the bat, I'm like, I'm not running away from anything. I just love going into the unknown. She's like, oh, that's a great answer.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, because that's when
Yeah.
you can't predict the future.
Right.
The unfamiliar future, as Joe Dispenza says it. Ooh,
Yeah.
embrace it. But
Right.
most people are afraid of that. They want to go to their timeshare for a week, whatever's overlook the ocean, and then go
And
home.
yeah, and to be totally fair and like to remove any judgment from that, we all have different come froms. And there are, as Tony Robbins would say, the 6 fundamental human needs. And if one's not met, if that security piece is not met, then until that is met, it's very hard to lean into going into a different country and not having anything scheduled or planned and just hopping place to place and
That's
trusting
That's
that
the best.
everything can be lined up. Yeah.
But I've done that numerous times.
Yeah.
And it's worked out tremendously well.
Right. It's pretty amazing to watch.
Pretty much to a point where I packed my bag, where it was a backpacking bag worth of 2 days worth of clothes.
Yep.
And a one-way ticket to Thailand. And no hotel, nothing. And I had the best time of my life for 6 months, jumping around.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't plan anything. I didn't even know
Same.
what I was doing. I'm like, I went there, and they're like, are you going south or north? I'm like, I don't know. I was just asking people. Everyone's like, oh, we're going to, what was it, Phuket? I was like, okay, then I'm just going to do the exact opposite as everyone else. I went up north to Chiang Mai, and I had a blast.
That's where I did my training, actually.
Really? Yeah, that's a very spiritual place.
Yeah.
Chiang Mai, Chiang Rai. Yeah, that's a really nice place.
Yes.
I met some people that came from like a 10-day silent retreat. I don't know if I want to do that, but they're like,
do it.
Yeah.
That resistance. What are you running from?
I'm not running from anything. Like
Just
10 days of not talking.
No, it's like
Can I text?
Has to. So when we did very similar for 7 months. Our family of 6, we took our kids, and our first stop was Malaysia.
Okay.
We got at the airport and sat down and booked our Airbnb for the night and decided where we were going to go next. And one of our stops was, I just lost my
Malaysia.
train of thought.
You were in Malaysia.
Yeah,
you booked the Airbnb.
You said something. Oh, the silence.
The silence.
So we ended up along the route of the 7 months. We ended up in Bali, and they have
I love Bali.
They have a holiday where there's no electronics and
It's one day.
and not speaking. Yep.
What day is this?
Oh my gosh.
Is it a Hindu tradition?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Interesting. I need to ask you something.
Nepi.
Nepi.
Along those lines.
Okay, cool. Sounds
'Kay.
so. It's like unplugging.
Check it. What's that?
Unplugging for
You're
a day.
unplugging everything, and the concept is really beautiful. It's they create these amazing statues, I would say. Each village creates a statue of that depicts a demon of sorts. I hope I'm using the right terms. This is from my perception, right?
I think
and what
it's
I
more
remember.
like a statue that protects the people. So they don't see it
Yes,
as a
it's
demon.
like a deflection,
Right.
right? Yeah,
They
it
don't
looks
see
like a
it.
demon. Yeah,
They
they
see
look
it as
scary, but
kind of like a scarecrow.
right. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
So
for
when and there's this day when the evil spirits are going to pass over,
hmm
and when they do, you that's why no talking and the electronics are off so that you don't draw any attention
ah, that makes sense.
to your own home, right?
Nice.
It's beautiful, and that experience of not talking just for the day, um, it was right after COVID had
Oh,
come, and the day before, or no, so this was, I mean, we're like, people are leaving. People are like, oh my gosh, my tickets are changing, so it's time to jump ship, and
yeah.
we're right at that point. Tell you what, to be in Bali when there's no tourists was really, really amazing. But so we have Nyepi, right? And it's you're not supposed to leave home. You stay
Oh, you
in.
just stay
You're
in?
not talking. Yeah.
You
So
can't
here's
walk the streets or anything? You can't
no,
roll the yoga in silence?
you're just in your home,
Got it.
without electronics. And when so this is our family of 6. We've got these 4 girls, and they they didn't want to, and it was we're like,
Okay.
that's okay. I'm gonna choose in, and I did, and it was really fascinating to watch when my inclination to talk was, and and like how did that impact me to not be able to say something when I wanted to.
Uh-huh.
I would highly encourage you to at
Got it.
least try a
I'll
day.
try. I'll try.
It
I'll
was
definitely try
really
a day.
amazing.
I might try 3 days, but I don't know about 10 days.
You'll discover things about yourself
Cool.
that you just can't quite discover another
And
way.
me being a social butterfly, yeah, I'll discover a lot of
Yeah.
things.
And when to bring round circle right for the very beginning, this is where one of those practices where you can only discover that healing inside of you,
Good. And I will.
right?
Definitely.
No one else can tell you
Nah,
what you're going to experience.
that's the
And
same thing with psychedelic drugs.
I don't know anything about that.
Me neither, but a lot of people tell me different stories.
Okay.
One thing I was gonna ask you is, do you know what gnosis means?
Gnosis?
Okay, do you know
I
what?
mean, like hypnosis?
No, not in hypnosis. It's more like a trance state that you go into. In yoga they call it samadhi.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, do you know what that is?
Yeah.
Can you explain to us a little more what that is? Because I think you explained a little bit ago. Because when you go into those lower levels,
Hmm.
you're going to a state of samadhi
I mean, I would say the easiest way
or
to
gnosis,
say it would be like it's enlightenment, right? So
enlightenment.
you're at a point where you don't feel judgment towards other people. There's not and again, student.
Yeah.
I'm just a student. Um, it, when we're in that state, and as we approach that state, I think you have this experience you're talking about of it correlates with healing. We're healing our nervous system. We're healing our physical system. We're healing our perceptions that bring discomfort.
Nice.
And there's less and less suffering.
You know
So
when
more and
you
more
s-
balance, less and less suffering.
that's good to know. So you said enlightenment. You know, scientifically they proved that people go into enlightenment, your body releases photons,
Hmm.
which is light,
Wow.
and they literally coined it enlightenment. And then they're like, "Oh, this is scientific breakthrough," and they're like, "No, what the hell?" Like Chinese people in the Tibetan mountains have been doing this for thousands of years.
Right.
They're like, "You just proved something that people have been doing for thousands of years." They're like, "Whoop de
Yeah,
doo."
it's
Yeah,
so cool.
but they're able to prove it now. So
Yeah.
your body releases photons, which is literally light when
Wow.
you're in when you're in that state, when
Mhm.
you're in a good happy state.
Yeah.
So like it was crazy watching it.
It's really cool to even like bring that and compare it to like Christianity, right? Where light is seen as knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
and the more that we and you look at the word enlightened, yeah,
Yeah.
it's all like Christ being the source of light, and
Yeah.
I am the light, and I love to see the correlations between the religions and the practices. It's
I
really
think
beautiful.
you're trying to connect to source because even lately I've been doing a lot of ice baths,
Sure.
and the guys like just envision the light just coming down on you,
Mm-hmm.
and you're connected to source. And like whenever I do that, and I tell myself I'm in a safe place, like literally I'm not cold, and it's freezing water with ice. It's like 10 degrees outside,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been in there for 10 minutes, 11 minutes, and I'm fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
What do you think that is? Or you haven't? What's your thoughts? You don't have to give me a right answer. You don't have to give me a wrong answer.
Yeah, my thoughts on that. I think there's
Is it like you try and connect to source or consciousness, everyone's consciousness,
like finding that stillness.
finding that stillness?
Like in a practice like that, you really need to go within to check yourself and
Yeah.
very intentionally choose your response. Because if you're not intentionally choosing your response, your fight or flight is, I'm getting the heck out of this pool of
Yeah.
freezing cold water,
Yeah.
because why would I do that?
Yeah. So when
Um,
you first go in the water,
mhm.
he even says it like you're in a sympathetic nervous system. You are in a fight or flight. So you constantly just have to
Yep.
breathe in,
Check in,
breathe out.
choose. Yep.
Yeah, and like you just have to calm yourself in a sense by
Yeah.
breathing, just
Yes.
simple breaths. And after like about 30 seconds to a minute, you
Hmm.
really calm down and you
Yeah.
stop getting
We
cold.
talked about this with the tarantula. We had a pet tarantula for a little bit, and you'd hold it in your
Yeah, you did tell me
hand,
about this.
and they're so sensitive to fear.
You did tell
And
me
I
about
noticed
this.
that holding it in my hand for the first time, it started to crawl quickly up my hand. And if I slowed down my breath and calmed myself
Yeah.
from that first initial reaction of, there is a tarantula in my hand and it's crawling up the only direction it can go, which is right up towards my face. And so you have you can choose to either feed the fear and it's going to go faster, or calm yourself down. And sure enough, the spider slowed down and just kind of settled in, and then it was okay.
So it sensed you in a sense.
Yes, and
Speaking of
we
which,
all have that,
do you,
right? Like,
that's
we
what I was gonna
don't
ask you.
know,
Do you think
but
people have like a sixth, seventh
100%.
sense, like
100%.
remote viewing?
I don't know what that is.
Remote viewing is able to know something beyond space and time. Like you're able to see, let's just say, somewhere in
Sure.
Russia, what someone's doing in a secret military bunker.
Sure.
Like your third eye.
Yeah, I totally believe in revelation. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
Like prophets having revelation, I think
So
absolutely.
yeah, prophets haven't actually. That's proven too scientifically. People
Wow.
just have revelations.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like but so in the United States they call that psychosis,
Right?
and they
It's
drug
so
you up.
fascinating.
Yeah. So
The
there's a lot of
meaning we place on things
yeah.
that we don't understand.
Yeah.
And historically, like science versus magic, right? When you first told me the name
Ooh.
of your podcast,
Yeah.
I thought a lot about it. And one of the things that came to mind is how in history, if we can't understand it, we call it voodoo or
Yeah.
science,
But
or
these
excuse me,
people.
or magic, or we shun it because we can't understand it.
Yeah.
And then when we think we understand it, then we can call it science. But even the science that we think we
No.
understand, we don't.
No.
So it's
These
such
people
a
have
it's
missed it
such an ego attached
big time.
conceptualization.
These people. I mean, it's on TED Talk. It's all over. It's documented. These people have
Okay.
like mystical experiences for their tribes, and it
Sure.
happens often, all over the world.
Right.
And these people are like highly looked upon.
Yeah.
And they remember it.
Mm-hmm.
There's even a guy in the U.S. His name is Edgar something Cross. He's from like the early 20th century.
Okay.
It's called the Tachic Files. Have you heard of that?
No.
Anyways, this guy was very famous. People
Okay.
from all around the world would come to him, and he would just go into that deep state of samadhi.
Okay.
And he would be able to read people's fortunes, tell them certain things. Like
Yeah.
he would be able to say things that there's no way he would know. This guy was a
Mhm.
farmer. He grew up on
Mhm.
a farm. No one even taught him this.
Interesting.
And he's
Yeah.
all like, whatever I'm telling you guys, it's like you guys all have the power to do this.
Right.
It's like it's not just me.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like somehow something happened. I don't know how he figured it out, but he figured it out.
So this concept is bringing us back to that stillness, right? If we can come to the absolute stillness where we're one with source, whether that's God, for me that's Heavenly Father, that
Nice.
as I come to that stillness, I can feel, I can know for me. I don't know that I have the right to be telling someone else what's right for them.
Mhm.
In me, I'm not just not in a place of feeling that. But I would feel more inclined to invite them to find that within themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because if I'm just giving that to them, I almost feel like for me, it would be stealing from their opportunity and leading to confusion if they're not tapping into that, because then they're left with this gap between, that logically, if they're more up here in the logic mind all the
Yeah.
time, they're trying to make sense of something that is found in stillness, and it can be more confusing than helpful. I don't know.
Well,
I
logically
mean,
it doesn't make sense, but then again, people try to make sense of the universe,
mhm.
but they're like, this doesn't logically make sense, like quantum mechanics. And then you realize it doesn't have to logically make sense to you.
Yeah.
But
And I guess the
who
root
are
of it
you?
for me is, okay, if I don't at least give some tools for them to also have that experience to verify it for themselves, they can be left more in confusion than in having any kind of help.
Got it.
But if we can invite people to find that stillness, find connection with what is that the source for them, what brings them true peace, true healing in their life. Again, for me, that's, I grew up in a religious background. So for me, that's Christ and Heavenly Father. And at the same time, it's fascinating how for some people that becomes a destructive force and a disconnective force. And I find that the difference, whatever that is for individuals, if it's, by whatever name they call it, him, her, source is source.
Yeah.
Creator is creator. And if we bring it to a place where we feel forced and we're conceptualizing religion, life, whatever concept it is that we're trying to conceptualize life in from this place of the waves and looking at everything as physical and we're in fight or flight, we then become a victim of what we're looking for peace within. Religion can become the prison itself.
Or distraction at the minimum.
Or distraction, because if we're using it and I have to do this, I have to obey, and if I don't, then I'm ashamed. Like, that's all up here.
So are you trying to say you should do it because you want to do it and
I'm
it feels
saying
right?
Leave out all the shoulds and find where the love is in it.
Right.
Where's the love in any of the motive?
Because you want them. Yeah, okay, got it. Like love for thy neighbor.
Sure.
Okay.
Yes. So if you look at the council of, true Christianity based, it's all this, it's all of them at the root. That's the pure teachings in the East, in all the places, at the pure heart of peace, love, freedom. It's fascinating to see how the things that are asked at the root of religion correlate with healing the nervous system. And as we heal the nervous system, we're taken from the chemicals that are keeping us here. We heal, we expand our consciousness. We heal, we expand our consciousness. We heal our physiology. It's all correlated. And we're able to have more expanded, broader view of the world that we experience and more pure perception of what is even real, rather than this happens and I put a label on it, right? You look at me away and I'm like, oh, someone else when I was young looked at me that same way and I'm triggered. Instead of, if I have an expanded state of consciousness, I have more space to react, and then I can conceptualize, like, how can I connect with someone in love rather than disconnecting based on a knee-jerk reaction? And if I can be in this place of how can I still allow connection and oneness in this moment? Number one, it could just come naturally. Or if I'm kind of, up in other levels, I can help myself to practice coming to the oneness by, where's there love in this? Where can there be connection? How can I not make it about me, but make it about also the space between the collective? Actually, maybe you're looking at me that way, not because it has anything to do with me, but something that happened to you. And it's just, emoting from you in that moment, right?
Maybe I got a text message and I'm looking at it and I'm thinking something else that has nothing to do with you at all.
Right.
And
but I may get defensive, and then we've got disconnection between us
Yeah.
because of just perception.
Yeah, it
Right.
is your perception, definitely.
Yeah.
But perception is reality.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
the less reactive you are to other people, the better off you'll be.
Well, the better off we are, and the more we evolve in the fuel that we give ourselves, then the better off we are to people.
Cool.
Right? It's a positive feedback system. Right?
Cool. On the last note, let's say people are down, they're in a grind, they're stuck somewhere, they've been drinking, bad relationship, they say they found they have cancer. What would be the one advice you would be able to give them, like on the last note, so they could help themselves?
Breathe.
You're the second person that just said that. Nice. Just breathe. Just take a breathing class, or just, what do you mean by breathe? Like I'm breathing right now.
I just think it's a pretty beautiful gift that we're given. Breath and agency. And you combine those two. Yeah, agency being choice, like our freedom to choose.
Oh,
that's the concept of that.
Free will.
Yes, free will. Yeah, it's the concept of the book Freedom Behind Bars. you can take everything from me, but you can't take my ability to choose. I can rob myself of that by fueling myself improperly and bringing myself to fight or flight, and then I lose the bandwidth and the length and to choose what I want. However, combining our breath and our agency, those just the two are these amazing gifts. Using our breath to as one of the quickest, easiest, always on hand ways to help heal our nervous system. We can make better decisions.
Got it. So just breathe. Got it.
Start with fueling, those choices.
Mm-hmm.
Use our agency to fuel ourselves. Breathing differently, including, taking deep, diaphragmatic. Naturally, if we're in fight or flight, we're taking quick, shallow breaths, and we're perpetuating a state of fight or flight. But we have this gift of agency. We can choose how we breathe, and we can shift how we breathe and consciously take the reins rather than just being breathed. Sometimes there's a time to be breathed, and sometimes there's a time to breathe.
Got it.
And
cool.
So making that choice to breathe in a way that fuels us
Got it.
toward health rather than away from health and freedom.
Got it. Cool. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Appreciate you coming. So tell us where you do your yoga classes. So maybe some people watching this could drop by.
I do yoga at my home, but I also, hire out and do one-on-one. I love to bring yoga and like healing our mind together.
Mm-hmm.
And so I bring in yoga philosophy into my teaching. I'm talking about, each of the yamas and niyamas, for example, as I go through class, so that it's an experience of, inviting someone to that place of stillness, and then they're able to work and find answers within themselves. Practice and find answers within themselves, as I just make suggestions of something to dance with in their own intention and in their own space of processing things. So
cool. Right on. Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
again for coming.
Absolutely.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you like this episode, go ahead and subscribe and have a great night.
Cool.